All right, we're going to get the show on the road. This morning we have Robert Pate with the Idaho National Laboratory, Senior Cybersecurity Strategist, joining us. Rob, has called an audible and has assembled a panel of experts as part of this conversation, which will be a lot of fun. I know, Clint, you are the expert. Congratulations. You got a good team there. So Rob, in his role here with the Idaho National Lab, has extensive experience in fortifying critical energy infrastructure, in particular with previous roles as Managing Director and Chief Security Officer at Secure Systems Innovation Corporation. And he works extensively with government in terms of incident response and security teams. So Rob, I'm going to let you lead and try to corral this team. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you can see, we have a few folks up here that joined me. When I looked at this room and saw how many people would be here, I figured I'd call the cavalry and bring some experts along with me. But just to get things started, I want to give you guys a little story, and it really has to relate to communication and the different groups that might be at the conference and the different ways that we speak to each other. So, bear with me for a moment. Hopefully you'll get the point. So there's a man in a hot air balloon, and he's, flying around. He realizes that he's lost. He reduces his height a little bit and spots a man below. He lowers the balloon and shouts to the man on the ground. He says, "Can you help me? I promised a friend I would meet him a half an hour ago, but I don't know where I am." And the man on the ground says, "You are in a hot air balloon. You're approximately 30 feet above the ground. You're between 40 and 42 degrees north latitude and 58 to 60 degrees west longitude." And so the gentleman in the hot air balloon says, he goes, "You must be an engineer." And he says, "I am." He says, "How did you know?" He said, "Well, everything that you said is technically correct, but I have no idea what to make of your information, and in fact, I am still lost." And so the man below says, "You must be a manager." And he said, "I am." He said, "How did you know?" He said, "Well, you don't know where you are or where you're going. You made a promise which you have no idea how to keep, and you expect me to solve your problem. The fact is that you are still in the exact same position you were before we met, but now it is somehow my fault." So if you can relate to that, in your communications, in your job and other places, I just figured that would give you some perspective on some of the communication challenges that we have. So I have a great group up here. I want to go down the row, let everybody introduce themselves, and then my objective here is real simple. We're going to do a little bit of interactive Jerry Springer, Oprah, whatever talk show you like. I'm going to wander in the audience. We're going to ask some questions, but hopefully when you leave, you're going to leave with something more than, "Hey, I attended a session and hopefully it was entertaining," but hopefully you'll leave with something, either like a new contact, some business cards, something that you can engage in, or some way that you'll, once again, the money you paid to be at HUSECCon was worthwhile for you. So I'm just going to go down the line, and we'll start with you, Clint. You can introduce yourself, tell folks a little bit about your experience, and we'll keep on rocking and rolling.
I still don't get the joke. So, hi everybody, I'm Clint Bodungian. I've got about almost, I guess, coming next April will be 30 years in cybersecurity. Specialized in ICS and OT cyber since 2003. And in 2013, got into gamification. That's Tony remembers all that. Got into gamification of cybersecurity, simulations, AI. Yes, AI, machine learning, gaming AI, and all that other stuff. And I guess that's pretty much about me. Some of you may have my first book. I'm the principal author on Hacking Exposed Industrial Control Systems. And then my second book is free tomorrow. Come to my signing tomorrow at 11. Is ChatGPT for Cybersecurity Cookbook, I think it is. Don't let the name fool you. It's not just ChatGPT. So anyway, that's about me.
Hey everyone, my name is Tom Van Norman. We got a couple of decades doing this stuff here. 10 years ago, retired from Air National Guard after about 24 years of service doing OCO. Now I'm the co-founder of the ICS Village. We're over that way somewhere. We focus on education awareness of industrial control systems. We go to different conferences. We have our own conference every spring in Washington, D.C. We have some training material that we recently got a philanthropy grant on that we're developing, and we'll go over that during this panel. So if you don't know about ICS Village, check it out, icsvillage.com. Stop by our area over there. We've got some pretty cool stuff going on. We are a nonprofit funded by sponsors and ran by volunteers. Art.
My name's Art Conklin. I'm currently Professor Emeritus, which means I don't have to do anything anymore. That's a pretty cool gig when you get there. My history started in the U.S. Navy in the early 80s, sailed around the world, saw a lot of people, killed them for Uncle Sam, came home, went to Naval Postgraduate School, got my first doctorate. They invented this new thing was sweeping through called TCP/IP. And I remember people saying how this networking stuff was going to change the world. It did, but they had no idea. Went into private industry for a long time, eventually came back into academia, got a second doctorate out of UTSA, ended up over here in Houston, and I've been playing in ICS, OT world, literally since my Navy days, because if you're not controlling something, why are you using a computer?
And as I was introduced, I'm Rob Pate with the Idaho National Lab, and I actually have a couple slides, and it's really because I've talked to a bunch of people with my wife, and when you tell them you work at a lab, if they're not familiar with the lab system, they'll ask me silly questions like, "You mean like CVS?" And if you're familiar with Idaho National Lab, you'll realize it's not like CVS. So I'll pop you through a couple quick slides. I promise not to bore you. If I'm boring, throw something at me, and we'll keep on moving along. But it's just to give you an overview, because once again, I want you to understand what we have that's available, maybe ways that you want to engage or interact with Idaho National Lab as well as others, and just kind of present some opportunities for you to do things with us. And I think is there anyone from Idaho National Lab here representing? So yeah, we're joking. So the whole front row is. So there's lots of folks here that you can connect with. So I'll just run you through real quick. So a little bit of history lesson. We've been around a long time. One of our claim to fames, if you ever come out to Idaho, is we have the first nuclear power plant was built out there, and we were the nuclear reactor testing station that drove the innovation, for the U.S. and around the world. But there's a really cool kind of National Geographic touchy-feely interactive. It's called EBR-1, Experimental Breeder Reactor number 1. If you ever decide to come out, it's cool. You walk around, you can touch and feel and do lots of stuff there. We're really focused on addressing like major challenges, and the great thing with them when I'm with our friends in private sector, we don't want to compete with you, right? So we do what others can't do, won't do, and shouldn't do, right? So it's great. I'm like, hey, you want to go make money? Anybody who wants to make money? You guys want to make money? Great. If there's a gap in the needs of customers or in the marketplace, bring it to our attention. Let us use the money that the government's invested to address the problem, get the capability up to a TRL level that's good enough for you to take it, commercialize it, go make a bunch of money, and help the world be a greater place. And if you are or you aren't familiar with the national labs, this is a slide. It gives you, a whole bunch of them. And actually, I think we do have some of our friends also. Do we have our Sandia friends here too? Yeah, so we have some of our Sandia friends also, but one of 17 national labs that are, owned and run by the Department of Energy. This is really like the only slide that I really wanted to show, although I have a big deck. And this is to emphasize like the resources that we have. So we have 890 square miles in the Idaho desert. And the reason I mention that is, we talk a lot about modeling and simulation and other stuff that people can do. We focus on full-scale testing. So if you've done something in the lab or done modeling and simulation and you're ready to take it out to the desert and really like push it to the limits, that's what we're all about. So it's, I think, roughly the size of Rhode Island. I think that's the where we reference. But a lot of resources that are there. So if there's something that you're doing that you want to take out to the desert and go, we want to really see if it'll work in a full-scale environment, that's what we do. This gives you a little idea of some of our mission space. So we do a lot, and I'll show you another slide which will give you a little bit more on this. You can read it. I'm not going to read them to you because I have these guys up here who I want to hear them talk more than myself. But we've been doing this for about 75 years, and you can see we've gone up through from Naval Proving Ground to, in 2020, a Cyber Integration Center, which is about 80,000 square foot building totally dedicated to operational technology with, I think, 13 plus classified laboratories. I believe it's actually the biggest dedicated operational technology space in the country. Once again, happy to share cards and have people come out for visits and learn more about it. These are some of the challenges that you all are probably well aware of. We focus on these and we're looking to solve them. Some more of our mission areas. And this is really the slide I wanted to put up there because it gives you an idea. Once again, if you look at it, we do a lot in the space. So we have a wireless test range, power grid test bed. We do specific manufacturing capability, and that might be like a weird way that we communicate that we build the armor for the Abrams tank, and then we test it out in the desert. So any weapons that exist on the planet, like we got to take them out in the desert and blow stuff up. And if you're a cyber person and you get to go watch something explode, it's kind of cool. We'll even go, hey, let's go out and shoot guns. It's fun. And as you can see, explosive range. And another area which people kind of get excited about is UAV. So we do a lot with UAVs. We actually have an airstrip out in the desert too, so we can do quite a wide range with respect to that. For the future, here's some of the areas that we're focused on. Advancing critical function assurance, all hazard response, because it's not just cyber in times when power goes out or communications, as well as a number of the other areas. And then we've been doing it a long time. I'm going to stop with my slides. We're going to get to some more interactive discussion with you guys. And because if I see people nodding off, I'm going to start walking up and down the aisles. So, Clint, yeah, exactly. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're interested in, some of the tabletop areas, as well as some of the Gen AI and other areas that we talked about earlier.
That's pretty broad.
There you go.
You know what? I tell you what. I'll get on my soapbox. Tony's heard plenty of these. So, yeah, since you mentioned tabletops, let's talk about tabletops real quick. Any type of, look, INL does red team, blue team exercises, tabletops, full-scale exercises. And the one thing that I want to say when it comes to like incident response preparedness in terms of using tabletops is they're not being used effectively. And I think folks can get a lot more out of their tabletops and their incident response preparedness by doing them more frequently and taking them seriously. I think that the whole problem with tabletops as we do them now is we have this once a year type thing. It's usually a checkbox kind of thing. And in order to get the real value out of tabletops, you need to be kind of doing one big one, a first one. You need to understand your gaps, correct those gaps, and then do another one. You know, I would say quarterly as opposed to, or at least twice a year. And you need to do them. You need to do them more dynamically. And I know there's a big problem with like, well, it takes so much time and money and resources to create these tabletops, but there's solutions around that. And I'm just gonna, that's my soapbox, and that's what really grinds my gears. And so I just want to throw that out there and open that up as a potential discussion starter.
I have a question for you. So as we talk about some of the tabletops, and once again, I want people to be engaged and involved in these opportunities. Are there any that you could, any that you're aware of, any that you can recommend, any that people should need to know about, or results that come from some of the tabletops where people can, take the results from those, tabletops and actually instrument the findings in their environments?
I'm glad you asked. No, I mean, first and foremost, I will say that CISA has a lot of great resources on predefined exercises and scenarios and things like that. And I'm going to say it, you're not going to like it, but it's true. You can actually use, one of the actual effective uses of generative AI is using it to create tabletop scenarios, doing the heavy lifting, right? So instead of spending all of that time creating a single scenario, you can leverage power of generative AI. And it doesn't matter, well, what if it hallucinates? That's what an exercise is. It's tabletop. It's a fake scenario. It is hallucination. So it's fine. So you can use generative AI to help you develop all of your scenarios much quicker, much faster. And by the way, who's done a tabletop to where you have some engineer out there going, well, our network doesn't work like that. Or I want to see the logs. And if you didn't prepare that in your collateral ahead of time, you're kind of screwed. But you can generate instant, very accurate looking logs and generate details with generative AI. So that's what I would recommend. That's what technologies I want to use. And, that's actually what I do. That's what I do for a living.
And a book plug for you. What is the name of your book that you will be signing tomorrow?
Yeah, you can get it for free tomorrow. ChatGPT for Cybersecurity Cookbook. And I actually have another one coming out called Mastering Generative AI for Cybersecurity, I think second quarter next year.
So as Clint mentioned, the book is free, and he will sign it, which increases the value exponentially.
Oh, that decreases it. Don't get it. Sign at your own risk.
Go ahead, Art. Hop on.
As an educator, I want to bring up a very interesting topic on this training, tabletops, everything else. I have students all the time that are great at learning what's in a book, and then they find out they can't do anything at work. They can't get a job because they don't know how to do anything. And that sort of mismatch happens everywhere. I was involved in exercises with the Department of Defense called Dark Screen 25 years ago. And we get a whole bunch of people in a room from a company, and they'd say, well, this person's going to take care of it. Well, how are you going to get a hold of them? Well, I'm just going to call them. I'm sorry, your IP phone system, which you just got that's new, yeah, it's networked. Have a nice day. Now what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do this. No, that doesn't work either. Well, I don't know what I'll do then. I'll just sit here and wait. And so there's something about doing these exercises and actually getting your hands into it. And I'm going to give a plug for something that Rob didn't throw out there, which is INL has a great collaboration with CISA at the lab. I was out there a couple weeks ago, in which they have training that is humbling to even people that do this stuff all the time, because it has systems pre-built with you're going along and you think you found it, and for the average guys, they're like, we didn't even see that happening. And the good people are like, yeah, we caught that. And then suddenly you find out the really good people that wrote that also had this. And so you still lose. Kobayashi Maru works. Having to go through and actually fight your way through things like this and actually see it to the end. And so I'm going to more than pile on to Clint's once a year. Would you go to a heart surgeon for open heart surgery if he said, yeah, I did one last year in October, so if you can wait till October, I can get my checkbox? You know, you want the guy that did, 4 of them this morning. You want the people that continually practice this stuff. And so why aren't we doing that in our field? Why aren't we carving out the time? And part of it is the opportunity and the place and things like that. And there are resources out there that'll make that happen, including companies that you can hire to come in and drive different discussions and different points of view. And if you take it seriously, you get your money's worth.
And I appreciate the plug. So I don't know if anybody has or is aware of like our INL 301, 401, ICS training. If you are, maybe not. The good news is we have quite a bit. Yeah, maybe not the INL folks at all are aware, but the training's free, so that's great, right? So there's a lot of courses out there, SANS courses. You fill in the blank. They're really expensive. I'm not saying they're not good. They're just really expensive. These courses, the government has paid for. You can sign up, you can attend. I know that a lot of times there's a waiting list, and you try to get in, and maybe you're not successful. If you talk to Tony Gore, the guy with the beard up front, he can give you a coupon and get you in the door quicker because he knows everybody. But they're available, and there's actually quite a few other training courses that are available. I'll make sure that I share that with the conference people, or if you want me to give you a card afterwards, I'll connect you. And I know Michelle, who's in charge of our comms up here, will be happy to share that with the group. Because once again, we want you to walk away with something from the session. So come on, Tom, tell us all about ICS Village, how people can get engaged and do stuff with what you're involved in.
We love people to get engaged. Now, just one comment about the tabletops that Art and Clinton talked about. One of the best things that I've seen with them, when ICS Village does them and when I do them with other companies, forced socialization. It makes everybody talk. You're from different departments, different groups, different parts of the company, whatever it is. You're sitting around that table. Now you're forced to talk to one another. That's the best part about it, I think. Even if you don't meet the objectives or you fall short of objectives, now you know where Billy works or where Sally works or whoever works, and you had to force and talk to the person. That, I think, is a win no matter what the outcome is. Just knowing those other groups exist. But from the ICS Village perspective, point of view here, we do a lot with training. We do a lot with awareness. One of our unique things is we're doing it with actual hardware, with the actual technology. I know Clint does some really great stuff with gamification and the stuff that INL, the 301L up there, they have real hardware. I think that sets that apart, where you get students or you get people coming to take that training, and they actually get to touch that controller and set those IP addresses and stuff. And it always amazes me that we get students, we get people taking the training, and you have to set the IP address by manual. No DHCP servers, and I'm like, hey, how do I do that? I'm like, you've been doing this for 30 years, and you fell short of that. So no matter the skill level, whether you're right out of college or you've been doing this for several decades, we see a lot of the same things over and over again that people fall short of, and a lot of it goes right back to the basics. There's nothing wrong with doing your tabletops or doing a training and getting reintroduced to the basics, because when we go out and we do our job Monday through Friday or Sunday through Saturday, we know what we do, and most of us do it very well, but the things that we don't do, we kind of forget about. So nothing wrong with taking those basics again. Nothing wrong with collaborating with others that do that and bring the basics back.
So I have a question for you. During the conference, so you have the ICS Village set up here. What can people do, like if they leave this session and they go in the expo hall and they go visit the ICS Village, what can they do?
So over in the ICS Village, we brought 4 of our new trainer kits. So just about a year ago, I think it's about November, we got a philanthropy grant through the Kula Foundation to build out some ICS training. We built out some training kits in a partnership with some big name vendors. You go over there, you'll see the names. We brought some of those training kits and computers with us to show people what control systems are, allow them to interact with the controllers, the HMI, the firewalls, the switches, stuff like that. And the training will take you through from basic programming. We're not making programmers out of anybody. We're bringing, hey, this is what the PLCs and the HMI programming looks like. You know, we constantly get people saying, well, just change a program. Well, it's not that easy. It is easy, but it's not that easy. So our training kits over there, we got some computers set up. You can look at the traffic with Nmap. You can scan the controllers with look at the traffic with Wireshark, scan the controllers and everything with Nmap, see what vulnerabilities come back, see what fingerprinting comes back with, and we have the engineering software there that you can look at the programs, change them, interact with them.
So what's the entry level of knowledge that's required to start over at the ICS Village?
We have actual people from high school, from community colleges in there with very little knowledge, but like, hey, this stuff's really cool. What does it do? Can you show me about it?
So if you're a manager and you don't know anything about it, but you have technical people and you go, I'm a little nervous, but maybe I can wander over to the ICS Village. They shouldn't be concerned.
Absolutely not. Come on over. We can explain it to the engineer level. Most of us have worked out in the field. We've done the engineering or technician, the hands-on role, designing, installing, troubleshooting, all that stuff. And a lot of us have done the managerial role where we're supervising that. So at all different levels, come on over. We can talk to you. We can show you what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it.
But not professors. Professors
No.
won't get it.
Dr. Conklin, absolutely not. He taught most of us.
Which is why we're all up here and successful today. I want to say the thing, if you're going to go play in this world, bring an inquisitive mind. Bring that sense of wonder that you want to just go look at this cool stuff. I mean, I've used a bunch of Clint's stuff in my class, and the cool part about it is he's thought of things that other people haven't thought of, and then suddenly that sparks a conversation. And now it's like, hey, can you put this in there? Or can we do this? Or can we do that? If you're not having that conversation, you're not in. You're not in the game. And so I'll say the thing that shocked me when I was out at INL, and I'm using the word shock there on purpose, they've got a trainer that actually has a substation. And if you screw it up, it has an arc. And I won't forget for a long time that, shouldn't have done that. And the little bars raise and an arc flash, and it's like, oh, damn. You can't hide that from anybody. Now, the good news is it's only about 2 inches long, and I didn't blow up any real equipment, but you learn by trying. You learn by putting your hands on these things. And I have trainers that I've taken to places where I've unfortunately had people brick them, and that really sucks because sometimes it's really hard to unbrick some of these controllers. But if you're not willing to go try that, do these things, then why don't you just go to Starbucks for a living?
All right, we're going to the audience. Do we have questions? Okay. There it is. And it's all right. We want to make it interactive and fun, because we're giving the iPads out at the end, so,
Hi. Oh, question only. Tony said that he really wanted to work at Starbucks. So how would you guys recommend he fulfilled that career that he would like to do?
At Starbucks?
Yeah, with a caveat, it's me. Hey, so recognizing
Automated barista.
No, don't work me out of a job, dude. So we got a powerhouse of knowledge up there, right? And I do a lot of interaction with industry. Here recently, I've seen a trend where they're taking and they're, caveating things like an agile method, et cetera, that's premises is on fail fast into their cybersecurity practice for generating their engineering, their architecture, and their security operations posture. What's your take on that? Because some of that blows my mind.
I'm going to throw this back at Idaho National Labs because they've had products, as Rob brought up, if there's a gap somewhere where we're missing something and someone needs to go fill that in, CCE, Consequence-Centered Engineering, came out of that. But more importantly right now, there's something called Cyber-Informed Engineering, which is taking the principles that Spaff talked about up here earlier today. It's from the beginning of industry. This is what we need to be doing, how we need to be doing it. Papers from 1976 that explain this stuff. But yet it's dry. It's academia. How do you actually apply that into making your bridge not fall down is something called cyber-informed engineering. And so we're now progressing where we're taking some of this theoretical knowledge and moving it into what we're going to call the practicum of practice of cyber, of engineering of systems, so that we don't do the same mistakes we've been doing over and over and over again. So yes, there is a path towards that. The problem is that path is going to take a decade to socialize through organizations. And before anybody goes like, oh my God, another decade, let me tell you, agile programming has been around for more than a decade. And it's still, code as infrastructure has been around for more than a decade. And so it takes time for these things to socialize, but we have to do them. And I'm going to keep coming back to that socialization question. And Rob, there was a question in the back.
But real
over
quick,
here.
does
Okay,
agile
I
and
got 'em.
government doesn't seem like that would work. Honestly, that's why you need AI informed, engineering informed development.
Clint, what's this regenerative AI you talk about? What's that mean? I don't know.
I don't know, let's get the question over here.
Question.
All right, I was curious about either the national labs or anybody else you've seen. If anyone has like a general purpose test bed, just a pile of controls, a power simulator where you can say, well, today we're a transmission facility running a 6 years old Siemens HMI, and then we're going to turn that off, and now we're going to be a distribution substation, and I can, kick it in the teeth with some pen testing and see how my detection tools work or something like that.
Are you looking for a test bed to test out your commercial product? Is that what you're looking for?
All right, I think we have an answer in the front row here.
Hi guys, I'm Scott Bowman. I work at that Idaho National Lab. And there's so many things that the lab does that even people that work at the lab usually don't know all of them. But I was in CyberCore and now I'm in a modeling and tooling group. And so as far as, is there a place where there's just a wall of cybersecurity and control systems? Those do exist. And sometimes it takes a little bit more to get your foot in the door with a lab. It's one of those things where it's a long-term kind of partnership, and that's what we're really interested in. But if you have those gaps, if you have like a very specific thing that you want to test or a very general thing that you want to test, the best way is for industry to influence our sponsors to say, we need this, this, and this. And so there are a couple of things. One's called Citrix, and that's probably a decade old now, or is it younger than that? Almost 10 years? Almost 10 years. And what they did is they brought in some public and commercial providers to basically reverse engineer and do very detailed S-bombs, the data bombs, all of the things within the components. And so they basically completely took them apart. And then we have Cellar, which is a bunch of skids with a bunch of different control systems that you can run various red team scenarios against them and see what happens at a small scale. So those are just a couple of things.
Yeah, and Scott's a very capable engineer on our team, and I suggest you guys chat afterwards, because I also have my friends back here. Did you guys want to jump in, or do we want to?
I thought we were done.
No,
okay.
no, we're not done. We're not done. Is there any more questions in the audience? This is for your benefit. That's why you're here, right? We want you to leave and go, wow, okay, that question I really wanted to ask, or that new job offer, Tom's hiring, so we can negotiate your salary if you'd like. Okay. No.
So, Clint, you mentioned you do tabletops or have done tabletops, and often you mentioned it's a checkbox, maybe an annual thing, but a lot of the times it's the bureaucracy of the organization and actually putting those changes together. So, what's the secret to getting leadership or whoever to actually invoke those changes so that we can actually retest and see the value from those tabletops?
Lots of pictures and graphs. But other than that, I think that where I've seen success from management and budgets and being able to implement that is to be able to not just show the doom and gloom and not just show the problem, is to show improvement. Because when you get right down to it, whether it's security controls, threat intelligence, incident response, those kind of things, right? Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people talk about ROI. And like insurance, there's not really ROI. There's preventative costs, but there's not ROI. And so if you can effectively illustrate, okay, here are our gaps in our incident response, our process. And I think it's important when you're doing your tabletops to be able to assign an estimated cost of the incident. And I think that's because your management's going to look at numbers, right? It's all about numbers and improvements and production. How are we going to keep from losing production? And it's a business risk. So be able to show gaps with estimated costs of the incident, of the exercise, and that's why I said you need to have a repeated process. You need to be able to show because you can't do that doing it once a year. So if you can do a few different exercises throughout the year, and you're showing progress, you're showing a reduction in the cost of each incident as well. And so I think those are the important factors.
So we have about 3 minutes left, and I'll let everyone give kind of their final thoughts on the discussion topics, and we'll end right on time. Go ahead, Art.
I think I want to go back to the theme of communications, which we've talked about earlier in the opening keynote. We'll always talk about, and that is everybody thinks that their point of view is the right answer, because otherwise why would they be giving it? And a lot of times we have to take time and think and listen and understand. Sometimes the manager is right. Sometimes the engineer is right. Sometimes neither is right. And unless you put people around a table and hash it out and come to an agreement, with here's why this is important, here's why this is important, here's why this is important. I've seen companies go out of business because they can't do that. And so the net result is we got to learn to socialize, to communicate. People aren't going to be removed from the equation. So until we learn to do that in tabletops and real world exercises, touching real equipment, having your manager come see arc gaps, these things all matter.
To piggyback on that, a couple of things I have to say, communication. Just like Art said here, you have to talk, you have to communicate, you have to listen to the other person. I guess you don't really have to listen to the other person, but if you don't listen to the other person, bad things will probably happen. Whether it may not be today or tomorrow, but if you don't sit around that table and hear the impact from that other group, or know who works in that other group, or what that other group does, you work in your own silo. bad things will happen. And then the other thing is, don't forget about the basics. We sometimes get lost in the media. We get lost with, you know, pick a nation state or an adversary doing these really, really cool things to somebody else. But go back, you know, probably 8 weeks now, when we had major airlines that could not fly and other corporations around the world completely stopped. That was a basic thing that happened there. So don't forget about the basics. Don't try to focus on installing that new widget and that new thing in there to stop, you know, your advanced adversaries when, hey, you may not need them because of, you know, CCIE or these other things that are in place. So big picture, talk to everybody, and don't forget the basics.
I'll just double down on what I said about numbers. I think you want budget, you want the ability to do things, you want resources, empirical evidence, data, and doing things with the least path of resistance, like tabletops and exercises, to be able to build data and empirical evidence to show management is how you're going to win.
And we'll just wrap it up. I'll just say that, you know, you all were very fortunate to have this panel of rock stars. I would encourage you to, you know, give them cards, take cards, do some collaboration, talk to them, you know, go visit Tom in the ICS Village, you know, go see Clint at the book signing, you know, run into Art, you know, make sure that you're, you know, taking this time to collaborate with these folks. You know, once again, if you want to go work at the lab, you know, drop off a resume with anybody in the front row to come work at Idaho National Lab, because we can always use great people. And we really appreciate you for coming out today. Thank you so much.